Hello. Before we start today's episode, if you would like a condensed version of what I'm talking about in this podcast, go ahead and subscribe to the Perfectionist Guide. You can read the entire thing in 3 minutes or less. To access this, go to CourtneyLoveGavin.com/newsletter. Are you a bit of a perfectionist? Type A, hyper performer? Then you know that having the audacity to see an ideal and bring it into reality while breaking generational habits of hustle can be tough, but it doesn't have to be. If you are ready to burn bright instead of burning out, to lead without losing yourself, and to enjoy the life you have worked so hard to create, then keep listening. I'm your host, America's leader on rewiring perfectionism, CLG, and this is Perfectionism Rewired, the podcast. Welcome to Perfectionism Rewired. Today, I am talking lightning speed, permanent overcoming your perfectionism. Why this is the most practical solution for overcoming perfectionism. If there is an age limit, who this can work for, and I'm going to be giving you examples from one-on-one coaching clients of how freaky fast this works and why this works to shift the most rigid perfectionist mindsets and how you can use this to diffuse the inner critic that might be driving you. What is it, you ask? What is the fastest way to overcome perfectionism? Neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is your brain and nervous systems. That's the neuro part. It's your ability for them to be shaped and rewired through new learning and experiences. Neuroplasticity is actually why this podcast is called Perfectionism Rewired. We're talking about neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is also how you find new meaning in your experiences. It allows you to refine your self-identity and rewire your perfectionism in a permanently constructive way. A great visualization for this is to imagine that your brain and nervous systems are a huge power grid. There are billions of pathways that light up every time you think, feel, or do something. Putting neuroplasticity into action means that we are creating new pathways while also strengthening the best of the existing ones. Why it works lightning fast at rewiring perfectionism is because perfectionists, we are meaning-making machines. We are driven by ideals. We naturally equate a lot more meaning to what we perceive in our day-to-day lives. Our brain's naturally wired to look for errors. We have a very skilled ability to self-criticize and punish ourselves. Over time, what happens with perfectionists, the neural pathways of self-criticism and punishing ourselves, they get so strong that those fire up much more quickly than any other connection. It's why we don't even realize that we have the option or the choice of having self-compassion or to choose reflection over rumination, because the neural pathways of the self-criticism, the self-punishment has gotten so strong. And it is just like a muscle that has become overtrained at the expense of others. The negative self-talk, the inner critic, becomes rigid, and the connections between those neurons get stronger and more likely to fire. The result in that is a loss in perfectionists' ability to find new meaning in the same experience. So when you make a mistake, the rigidity that you have built up in your neural pathways means that you are unable to actually see a different perspective in that same experience as like me, your coach, is able to see. It's just like those big bodybuilders. They're like super ripped, but they can't touch their toes. That's what happens with perfectionists. It's this inner critic muscle becomes super strong, and it is at the expense of your flexibility for other perspectives that you eventually need. Every time you feel that you are not good enough, you are more likely to start berating yourself, to start looking at what's wrong, how I messed up, how you're a failure, instead of being able to elevate your perspective and to reframe the meaning by getting curious about the context. You lose the ability for curiosity and context when your neural pathways get rigid. This is what they mean when they say that you can become close-minded. It's literally like, it's rigid, I can't move. The negative self-talk patterns are ingrained. It does not resolve by itself. You got to take action to rewire the way that your brain and your neurons are firing in order for you to start building that flexibility and for you to have other roads to travel on. This is why in the Perfectionism Rewired Accelerator, I give you the scaffolding so you can experiment with new behaviors and to start laying down new neural pathways in your brain that develop into sustainable habits. In order for you to be less rigid, for you to create new pathways, your brain and nervous system needs to learn that it is safe to feel good and to learn new things. This is why when you are trying to work against yourself, or when you tell a perfectionist you can't do something that is maybe giving you serotonin, like people pleasing, and you take it away, you don't give the perfectionist something else, like another activity that you can do instead, it doesn't actually work. Engineering coaching programs for all of you to make it so not only are we turning off the cortisol, adrenaline, and the norepinephrine, but also we are massively increasing the dopamine, the oxytocin, the serotonin, and the endorphins that you are getting in your life right now. So it literally becomes a no-brainer of like, oh, of course I want to leverage my perfectionism. Of course I'm going to do this rewiring. Of course I want to show up for my coaching session. It's what reshapes your brain's default response to mistakes and adversity. Perfectionists, when they come to work with me, and maybe you're experiencing this right now, there is this discouraging pattern that continues to happen where you make an effort, you encounter an obstacle, you get criticism, you fall short in some way, you judge the shit out of yourself. You stop doing it for a while. Maybe you do nothing for a while. Then you feel guilty, and then you recommit to it due to guilt or due to punishment or due to you are a huge loser if you don't finish this. Another possibility for a different pattern you are able to create through neuroplasticity is you can make the effort, you encounter an obstacle, you make a mistake, you get massive criticism, you fail. You learn from it. Immediately, you're like, where's the learning here? Because you are actually able to be curious, and then you are able to revise and refine your approach. You notice the progress, you feel motivated, and you continue to recommit and level up because of the growth that you receive. An example from a one-on-one coaching client inside Perfectionism Optimized this week, where she realized that she had left the garage door open. Previously, this is something that she would beat herself up about. She would feel really guilty calling her husband to let him know about it. She would be thinking about all the things that could have been stolen, what a bad mom she is, et cetera, et cetera. This week, she said, I was driving to work. I realized I left the garage open, and I immediately called my husband and let him know. He closed it, and I didn't even think if anything was stolen. I didn't beat myself up. And she was like, it was such a different experience. Do you see that right there? That's neuroplastic change in action. And it means that you are rewiring your habitual nature into the direction where you'd really like to go. The direction where this client really wants to go and is going is that she has a closer relationship with her partner, that she trusts herself, that she's no longer spinning out over day-to-day things, that she's the present, fun, joyful parent that she wants to be. I call it Neuro-Sculpting, and it is the only neuroplasticity method that is designed to play with the fierce intensity of perfectionists. If you exercise your brain correctly and often enough through Neuro-Sculpting, which is what I teach you, it will become more powerful. And when you intentionally nourish your cognitive flexibility, this feeds directly into your healthy brain years or your brain span. This is what makes it so that you don't get Alzheimer's or other neurological degenerative diseases like dementia. It is never too late or too early to optimize for neuroplasticity. By encouraging and provoking thought, that shifts your perception and that causes new channels in your brain to form, new neurons to fire and rewire. And as a result, new attitudes and behaviors are connected. And also, do you know that brains can get bored just like people do? Novelty is one of the key differentiators in order for neuroplasticity to take place, along with some others that I teach you and I give you the resources for when you work with me inside the Perfectionism Rewired Accelerator. And through Neuro-Sculpting, you get to see yourself in an entirely new way. You become your biggest ally and your perfectionism becomes your biggest asset. The relationship between neuroplasticity and perfectionism goes back to that basic principle of use it or lose it. Just like the muscles and the nerves in our bodies, our brain needs regular exercise and stimulation in order to grow and stay in shape, especially if you are a high achiever. Neural connections and networks grow and become stronger when they are used, or they weaken and fade away if they are neglected. So when you are not using the neural pathways of discipline instead of punishment, of reflection instead of rumination, those neural pathways wither away and die. And so when you think about your self-talk, things that you repeatedly say to yourself, like if you are telling yourself, I don't have enough time, I'll never get this, everyone else's needs come before mine. If you continuously ruminate over your failures and your mistakes and what went wrong in the past, those negative thoughts and emotions become literally wired into your internal dialogue. That actually obscures the way that you perceive yourself. Right now, you are doing neuroplasticity. What you're doing is you are strengthening the connections that you don't actually want to be having. It's like you're just making those calf muscles bigger and bigger and making it harder and harder for you to touch your toes. Your brain will always retain its ability to change and grow until the day that you die. But what does happen, and I have a graph of this on my website, if you are under age 45, your brain's ability to change and the amount of effort that you put in, you have a lot more leverage, meaning that you could put in 50% effort and get 100% change because naturally your brain just has more of that neuroplasticity going. When you are over age 45, the amount of effort that you need to put in order to get your brain to change, it increases. So going back to the teaser at the beginning of the episode, no, there isn't an age limit, but there is a tipping point. If you are 45 or under, you want to jump on coming and working with me doing this rewiring. When you start now, you're not going to have to put in as much effort than if you decide to start 6 months from now. Literally, you're only making it harder on yourself. It just means that you work with me for longer. So I mean, no harm there, but I want you to be able to be your own coach and to be self-sufficient. So if you're not already working with me, come on over. And the way that you can do that is I will put a link in the show notes, but you can go to CourtneyLoveGavin.com/services and you will see all of the different ways that you can work with me. And a great way to start to dip your toes into neuroplasticity is the Perfect Start introductory session. That is where you are asked questions that provoke new perspectives, releasing a flood of fresh neurotransmitters as more regions in your brain become activated as it looks for answers. If you want to rewire your perfectionism, diffuse the inner critic, to shift out of the rigidity, then I invite you to come and work with me and become a playful perfectionist.